everyone, Ryan Young, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, and I hope you're doing well. So let's, I guess, get a few house cleaning items out of the way initially. Number one, this is going to be my first video, official video, actually video recorded for the new year. I'm going to actually cover what could be a pretty controversial topic, but like I said, some house cleaning things ahead of time. Number one is we're going to be doing the KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu camp. Got a couple slots left. That's going to be in Honolulu, taking place from Monday, March 11th through Friday, March 15th. We'll be putting in 20 hours of training over that period of time. Curriculum is still to be determined by Dave Kama, but there'll be at least 3 KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu black belts there in attendance. Dave will be there, I will be there, and Professor Fernando, our third degree, or Dave's third degree black belt, will be there as well, in addition to several instructors from our various academies. I think we'll have about 3 instructors coming from the Texas Academy in addition to me, and 1 from Irvine in addition to both Dave and Fernando. So this will be a really good opportunity for you to learn our system, our methodology, and how we do things. And you'll get to spend a lot of time with us as well. Sometimes what's actually more valuable than the mat time is the time off of the mat. And I can tell you for myself, when I spend time with Master Dave, the best time, the things that I learn the most important things often are things that I learn in a discussion with him off of the mat. And the same thing has been the case with him and Grandmaster RICKSON as well. Although he does still spend time on the mat with the Grandmaster himself. So this will be a good chance for you to get some of the latest concepts that we're working on, in addition to the just understanding what the Invisible Jiu-Jitsu is all about. Space is limited. It's going to be a very small event. I think 16 people is what we're looking at. So you want to do it. Just go ahead and email us at kaamajujitsu@gmail.com, and we can go over all the details for you then. I want to thank you for subscribing to our channel and hitting the bell. Did I get you? And hit the bell on where it says subscribe, so that way you can get our future videos. And also be sure to like or dislike, whatever, doesn't matter to me. Whatever the video does for you, or any of our videos for that matter. We'll keep putting them out, whether you like them or not, because I do know that I've been hearing that these videos have been valuable for you guys, even though we don't show any techniques on here. With regard to techniques, all our techniques that we have on video are on Patreon. Well, we do have a lot of videos that we're still preparing to put on there, but they are on Patreon. Patreon.com, link in the description below. And if you want to help the channel out, feel free to purchase any of the items that we use, as well as books that we recommend, in the description below as well. Now on to our topic. Should the designation world champion, or should any tournament medals mean anything to you, the student, or the potential student, the consumer looking for a school to go and join? My answer to that question is no. And why is that? Because first of all, realize that the term champion, there's not one champion in the tournament. There might be 100 champions. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but really, think about it. First you have age classes, right? You've got kids, you've got adult, you've got masters, you've got masters 1, masters 2, masters 3, something like that. Then you got senior levels, right? So all the different age categories. Then you have belt categories. Well, take it back. You have gender categories, then belt categories, then weight categories. So if you really think about it, you might have 25, 30 different categories in a single tournament. So, you have, let's say, the World Championship tournament, and then they have, what do they have? Masters World Championships, they have World Championships, and they have No-Gi World Championships. And when I think of the term world champion, I think of just one. There's one world champion, and that is it. In the marketing push to get more people competing and to make people feel better about themselves, the old participation trophy, let's create as many world champions as we can. You have somebody who says, I'm a world champion, and they might have 25 different world champions, and they're all world champions, right? So they're going to put on their website, on their CV, their resume, curriculum vitae, is that the Latin term? I'm not sure, but I know it's a CV. And they'll put, 1995 blue belt world champion, 1996 blue belt world champion, 1997 purple belt world champion. It's a dime a dozen, right? Let's just face it. I mean, and then there's Dallas Open champion. There's, go look on the IBJJF website. They're just the largest tournament promoter around. Look how many tournaments they have. Then, you say, oh, well, Ryan, at least they stepped on the mat and competed. Big deal. I did as well. It's fun, but it's a very controlled environment. It's much more of a controlled environment than simply training at your studio. So anybody who tells me that tournament experience is more valuable than experience in the academy, to me is just kidding themselves, right? And there's some very important people that I respect and I feel great affection for that will say that, and I don't believe that, because in your own academy, there's no time limits oftentimes. Let's say you're just training with somebody. It could be a 10-20 minute match. Just the other night, I went 20 minutes with one of my students. It could be a 20-minute match. It could be, it could be an older guy versus a younger guy. It could be a huge guy versus a little guy, right? You don't have divisions in class. It could be a purple belt going up against a blue belt, a black belt going against a brown belt. Whereas in a tournament, it's much more controlled, and they're trying to get it to, you're a man, age 40 to 45, purple belt, and you weigh between 160 and 170, really, right? How many ways can you slice and dice your competition or your opponent, right? It doesn't make any sense to me to put any weight on it. It is just for marketing. So now, let me kind of put it to you this way. Okay, well, so-and-so, they're a black belt, and in the 10 years that it took for them to get the black belt, they were undefeated their entire career, and they won world champions at every single level. World championship at every single level. Blue, purple, brown, black. All right. Now, there is an instance where I'll say, yes, that is something that I hold in high regard, that person's achievement. And let's say you have this 10-year competitor, and they're undefeated, right? That's a good thing, right? Yeah, Ryan, you should really think about, what you're saying, because this person's undefeated world champion 10 years in a row. So I'm a consumer, and I want to put one school against another. I've narrowed it down to two different schools. One of the schools doesn't, the professor doesn't compete regularly, or maybe he did, but doesn't list his achievements down, right? Because he started training at a time when there wasn't all that much in the way of competition. On the other hand, you have a relatively newer guy who is more savvy with regard to marketing, and puts all his achievements, his tournament achievements, on his website. And when you go into a studio, all his medals and the medals of his students are all tacked up on the wall, right? All you see are medals all over the place. He lists all his achievements, his champion this, champion that, champion, all the way down the road, all the way down the line. And you might look at that as a consumer and go, whoa, look at this guy, medals up the yin-yang, and he's a champion all over the place, right? And the other guy, you're gonna go, he doesn't list anything, and says he doesn't even compete. What are you gonna do, right? If you're trying to measure it on something like that, then of course you're gonna go and choose the world champion, right? But how about we put it in one way. So this guy's world champion won every single match he's ever matched up against somebody in a tournament, right? Same gender, same belt, same weight class, same age class, right? And those people he beat, undefeated, 10 years. Great, awesome. So the next question is, how do you win in a tournament, right? Well, you can win by submission. All right, so you went 10 years in a row. Did you submit everybody? Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so me personally, Ryan Young, if I come across a guy who went 10 years in a row, champion at every single tournament he's in, won every single match he went into, and he submitted every single one, choked, armbar, footlock, whatever, and submitted everybody, right? Didn't even go the time limit. Yeah, that's a badass. I'd check to see how well he can actually teach. And, you know, this guy has proved he can execute, right? He's proven that. You know, he's taken what he's learned from his professor and he's executed it to a high level, and to the point where he submitted everyone. Every single time he stepped on the mat in a match, he submitted everyone. So yes, that guy is extraordinary. That is somebody you need to consider taking a look at, because that is that's a 1 in a billion type situation, right? Nobody's like that, unfortunately, right? I know Crone was very close to that. You know, once he got, you know, he went through his entire brown belt competing, and he won every single match and won every one by submission. Black belt, he won a lot of them by submission, but he did lose once he hit black belt. So, you know, you don't have that person. You know, okay, so let's kind of take it back a level. You don't win every match by submission. In fact, you didn't win any match by submission. How else can you win? You can win by points, right? Let's say you win in dominating fashion. Let's say you doubled everybody's points that you went up against, 10-5. You went and you won 10 years worth of competitions. You went undefeated, same as the other guy. Undefeated, you won every medal there is to win, and you dominated everyone, 10-5. Now, is that as good as the guy who submitted everybody? Absolutely not, right? You won 10-5, and you're a multi-year champion. You never lost a match, but yet you never submitted anyone. You could have just, you know, passed his guard a few times, you know, but did you ever make the guy submit to you and say, yeah, you know, I am done, I give up, you won? No, they all went the time limit, So that person is a multi-medal champion, right? Never defeated. Well, let's look at tournaments even deeper. Let's say you couldn't even score. What's another way you can win? You can win by advantage. Advantage points, right? Those are phantom points. Now, what's a phantom point? It's a point advantage that was awarded to you for getting close but getting no cigar, right? You tried to pass that guy's guard, right? You tried and tried and tried. You were aggressive, but you were just not successful at passing the guy's guard. But maybe you are awarded an advantage point, and I have no idea how advantage points are awarded. It used to be where if you were the guy trying to pass the guard, and you kept trying and trying, and all the guy that was your opponent, all he did was just stop you from passing his guard. He kept keeping his guard, but never let you pass, but you were still attempting to pass. You were given the advantage. So if the match ended 0-0, the fact that you were trying to pass, you won, right? So you won 1 advantage to none, because the guy playing guard didn't really try to get his position better. You know, he didn't try to sweep you, or maybe it wasn't successful. I don't know how it works. But I know recently that's not a way to earn advantage points. I think they might have changed that criteria, because I saw a lot of matches happen where you had one guy playing guard, another guy trying to pass the guard, and no matter how many times the guy tried to pass the guard, he couldn't pass the guard, and he never got an advantage point. So let's say you just won every single match by advantage point, right? You never scored, you never passed anybody's guard, you never went knee in the belly, you never mounted somebody, you never took their back, you never swept them. But you always got more advantages than your opponent did. Let's say you got 10 advantages, your opponent got 5. At the end of the match, your arm is still going up, you're the winner. Right? Because of the rule set, you are the winner. Now, let's say you won every match, again, same example, for 10 years. And that's how you won. 10 advantages to 5. Even though you've never scored a point on anyone, even though you've never submitted anyone, you're still a champion. You're just as much a champion as the guy who beat every one of his opponents 10-5, or the guy who submitted everybody. You're just as much of a champion. Now, let's take it one more step. How can you win if you don't submit somebody, you don't score any points on anybody, you don't even get an advantage on someone? How can you still win? Referee's decision. What does that mean? So, a match goes 5 minutes. There's no submission, there's no points scored, and you guys are locked in one position the whole time, and no advantages were awarded. Time ran out. Right? An easy way to figure that one is, let's say the match never got to the ground. You guys started on your feet, and you both had base for days, and neither one of you could take each other off of their base to get them down to the ground to score the 2 points for a takedown. Right? So it started on your feet, it ended on your feet. and it never went down, never went down to the ground and never went out of bounds. So as a result, it's 0-0 with no advantages. Well, guess what? The ref will then make his decision and choose from the two who's going to win. Well, let's say you're the luckiest guy in the world and you got chosen every single time. Every single time. And you went 10 years, right? Went through all the belts. Never lost a match. Won every single match by referee's decision. Remember, referee's decision means you never submitted anybody. You never scored a point. You never got an advantage. So the ref gave it to you, right? But you're the luckiest guy every single match you're in. So you're going to get the same medal, the same record, the same designation, the same title that the person who submitted every single opponent that he's ever gone up against. You're going to get the same recognition. I think I had, in one video, had said something to the effect that, here's a guy who went up against another guy, got his arm broken, right? Got arm locked, got his arm broken, didn't tap. And then the guy who broke your arm stopped because he heard the crack, multiple cracks. And he's like, oh, shoot, I got this guy's arm, and he lets it go because he doesn't want to hurt you. But then you go, I didn't tap. The ref goes, yeah, you're right, you didn't tap. And as a result, start up all over again. I got 1 more minute to go, right? I just got to stay away from you. You broke my arm. I tie my arm inside of my gi, right? So I don't use my arm, and I just run around in circle for an entire minute, and match is over, right? And I happen to have more points than you because up until the point you broke my arm, I was winning by points. Well, guess what? I won even though you broke my arm. And I am so happy because I'm now the world champion. And the guy who beat me is thinking to himself, I just broke your arm, right? And you just didn't tap. Well, that's true. My arm is broken. I got to go to the hospital and get it looked at. And yeah, I didn't tap. But I'm still the world champion, right? That's a tournament. And that's why I say tournaments are cool. They're great fun, right? We, Kama Jiu-Jitsu here in Texas, we participated in the Rickson Gracie Cup in November of last year, 2018. It was great fun. We did really well, right? Really well. But at the end of the day, it's just tournament. I'm proud that our guys submitted. We had more submission wins than we had non-submission wins and losses combined. Why? It's because submissions mean something, right? That is a real win to us. And it happened both in the weight class and in the unlimited divisions. So it went guys of your size and guys that are bigger or smaller than you. But is that something that we tout on our website? No. Is that something that we talk about, that we advertise? No. Put on a Facebook page, because I like to recognize the guys that participated. But as far as our marketing, it's not something that we really market because, like I always say, the primary reason why people come to us and take Kama Jiu-Jitsu is because they want to learn self-defense. All the tournament did for our members is just show that even though we're a self-defense school and we don't market ourselves as a competition school, all it did was show them that what we teach is effective for self-defense. At the same time, it can be used and done to a high level in the tournament. You can do with high level success in the tournaments. You don't need to be at a sports school full of champions to be a champion, right? You don't need that. But you need to know the self-defense stuff. That's what jiu-jitsu is. All those people who do sport only, who only do, the fundamental stuff for the white belts, and maybe midway through the white belt, you can now go to the advanced class and now you never go through it again. You have to practice this stuff, right? Even people who know this stuff, who learned it and who practice it regularly, they can still be rusty at a particular technique or concept on the self-defense side. You need to be doing it all the time, right? All the time, regularly, in order for you to be proficient on it, proficient in the technique when the situation, when and if the situation comes up and you need to execute, right? You can't do it for the first 3 months or even 6 months as a white belt, and here you are, you've been training for 10 years and you're a black belt and you never did it past the first 6 months of your training. Let me kind of sum up here. What I'm really trying to say is, for those of you who are looking to train, if you're impressed by the volume of medals and the titles that anybody will put with regard to their jiu-jitsu training, it's okay to be impressed, but do some digging, right? And find out, how were these medals, how are these designations, these titles, how are they earned? Okay, you're going to call yourself a world champion, or you're going to call yourself a certain champion. How was it? How did you win? Did you submit your opponents? Did you win by points? Did you win by advantage? Or did you win by ref's decision? Right? If the person you're looking at admits to you, they're not gonna, if they admit to you that, oh yeah, my wins are, either by points, advantages, or referee's decision, right? Then, if your thing is to learn submissions, if you want to learn to submit people, if you want to have that mentality, then you need to train with somebody who actively trains that way. There are people who just train for points, right? One of my students was talking about how he has a friend who runs a school and, went to go train, and they had a guy, visiting or whatever, and he was yelling, okay, you gotta move. And he's like, why? I got a good position. You got your points, move. And he's like, I don't need any more points, right? Because he had passed the guy's guard, got cross-side, and guard pass is like 2 points, maybe 3 points, I'm not sure. Cross-side, hold the position, and he's up. This is just a training sparring session in a class, right? Or after a class. And this coral belt is telling him, you scored your 3 points, now you got to move. Because, he's going for submission, but he's telling him to move, try something, go to knee in the belly, get 2 more points, go to mount, get 4 points, run the score up. And coming, when you think about it, when you come from, something like Rickson's school, Rickson, he learned from Halls, a lot of what he learned, especially, thinking, learn the way Halls did things. And, Marcio Stambowski, who is one of the later black belts of Hall's Gracie. He's one of the 6 or 8 or whatever. I'm not sure how many Halls had in total. But he was talking about how he had entered a tournament, and he was beating a guy like 12-0. And it went for, I don't know, a few minutes. And then after that, he went and tapped him. And he said that after the match was over, he went to Halls. He was happy. He had won. He tapped the guy out, which is what you want, right? And he said that Halls was disappointed in him. And he's wondering, what's the matter? Why are you disappointed in me? He asked him the next day or something like that. He goes, I don't understand. When you saw that I won, you were scolding me. What's going on? He says, yes, I like the fact that you won and that you won by submission. My problem with it is that you had many more chances to win before the time that you actually did. But instead, you chose to run points up and then go for the submission. I would have rather have you submit the guy at the first opportunity you had to submit him. Let's say, the guy pulled guard on you and you pass his guard, 3 points, and the arm's right there, boom, take the arm. And I'm not saying this is what happened, but, I'm thinking, how could it have happened that way, So let's say you pass a guard, 3 points. The arm's right there, but instead of take the arm right away, you decide you want to go knee in the belly, score 2 more points, right? So that's 5-0. But the arm is right there now that you're knee in the belly, but you chose not to take it, so then you went for the mount, 4 more points. So that would be 9-0, right? And then, while you're mounted on him, you could have choked him right there, but you chose not to. Instead, you took his back, 4 more points, so 13-0. And it was at that point that you decided to choke him from behind, right? So I could see where, thinking the way how we think, I could see how somebody like Grandmaster Halls would be so upset with his student, even though he creamed his opponent, 13-0, and then submitted him, because you could have tapped him after the first 30 seconds. Why did you wait for the first 3 minutes or 4 minutes to elapse before you decided to go for submission? you know, if you won and it took you all that time and you won 15 to 10, right? That's a good, you know, for somebody, you know, that's a good win. But on the other hand, if on your way to scoring 15 points, you missed all these opportunities to submit the guy, and because you missed the opportunity to submit the guy, time ran out on you, right? Is that a good win? I guess it depends on what your perspective is. You know, if you're just there for the win and to pad your record, then yeah, I guess it's a good win. But for me, as an instructor, where I'm always telling my guys to submit, to either choke them, armbar them, you know, and if you can't do that, get to another position where you can, but then you can got to do the choke and the armbar again. For me, I'm happy that my guy won, but I really wish he submitted the guy. That's worth a lot to me. Going forward, look at a medal from a competition with a little bit of a more critical eye. You want to find out, you want to dig a little deeper into it and find out, really, is this something that that is really valuable to me as a consumer, or is it not? And if it's not, then move on. Anyway, hope all is well, and I figure I'm gonna get a lot of dislikes on this video, but it's okay. Anyway, but like it if you do, and be sure to you know, check the notes below for anything that may be of value to you down there. Happy training. Bye-bye now.